You've been giving away your power for most of your life, and many times you didn't even realize it. Every time you reacted to someone who didn't deserve your energy, every time you tried to explain yourself to people who had no intention of understanding, every moment you allowed someone else's words or actions to disturb your peace, you surrendered a piece of your freedom. The world continued moving forward, indifferent to the silent battles happening inside your mind. Yet the strength you've been searching for has always existed within you, quiet, steady, and unshakable, waiting for the moment you decide to claim it. Stoicism teaches that nothing outside of you has the power to harm your inner state unless you permit it. The instant you begin protecting your attention, controlling your reactions, and treating your peace as sacred, you take back the authority that was never meant to leave your hands. True strength is quiet. True freedom is intentional. Every decision to protect your energy, every pause before reacting, every moment of restraint slowly builds the life you were always capable of living. In those quiet moments of awareness, clarity appears, priorities sharpen, and the distractions that once ruled your thoughts begin to fade. Real strength is not found in loudness or force. It lives in calm self-mastery. Every word you speak, every argument you enter, every reaction you give carries weight. But often it is weight that was never meant for you. It clutters your thinking, drains your energy, and ties you to matters that will never improve your life. You may feel the urge to explain, to correct, or to justify yourself, but the only person who truly needs your understanding is you. Your time, your attention, and your calm are rare forms of wealth. Once they are handed freely to the undeserving, they cannot be fully recovered. Think of attention as a form of currency. When it is spent on people who demand it but offer nothing in return, it disappears. But when it is invested in people and pursuits that align with your purpose, it multiplies, enriching both your mind and your life. Each reaction given without awareness becomes a withdrawal from your reserves. Over time, those reserves shrink. Protecting your attention is not weakness. It is mastery. Picture someone trying to provoke you. Their words are crafted to drag you into emotional chaos that benefits only them. Each time you react, you confirm their influence. But when you refuse to respond, you remove the power they hoped to gain. They remain confused, uncertain, left inside the silence you created. Meanwhile, your mind stays clear, your heart steady, and your energy intact. What they hope to take from you returns to you strengthened by restraint. When people attempt to drag you into conflict, they reveal themselves, not you. Their hunger for attention, their dependence on drama, and their need for validation become obvious. The more you refuse to respond, the clearer it becomes that their efforts have no effect. The calm observer always holds the advantage because they act from control rather than reaction. Every pause, every unspoken word, every deliberate silence becomes a shield. Within that shield, you become untouchable. You may wonder whether indifference appears cold or distant. In truth, it is neither. It is a conscious decision to guard your inner world, to prioritize what truly matters, and to live according to values instead of impulses. Caring selectively, engaging with purpose, and investing energy only where it has meaning creates the foundation of resilience. It builds a life where external chaos barely touches you because you have decided which influences deserve space in your mind. If you value focus, calm, and mastery over your own mind, consider subscribing. It is a deliberate step toward living with intention, protecting your energy, and embracing the quiet strength that grows from self-discipline. The power of choice reveals itself most clearly in small, repeated decisions. The messages you choose not to answer, the arguments you refuse to enter, the debates you decline. Each time you refuse to give away your attention, you strengthen your sovereignty. You construct an inner fortress that cannot be manipulated, distracted, or shaken by the trivial demands of others. This fortress is not built with hostility, but with thoughtful boundaries, reflective habits, and the careful use of energy. Understanding your triggers is essential. The situations that spark anger, the words that provoke defensiveness, the criticism that unsettles you, these are the moments where control can slip away. Mastery of self does not mean avoiding these triggers. It means facing them with calm awareness and choosing not to react. Whenever someone calls your name in accusation or tries to provoke a response, you decide whether the moment deserves your attention. That decision itself is your power. Silence carries consequences words cannot achieve. It becomes a mirror where others see themselves rather than you. It denies them validation, leaves them suspended in uncertainty, and exposes the weakness of their attempts to manipulate you. While they spend their energy trying to provoke a reaction, you preserve your clarity, focus, and strength. Time spent in restraint is never wasted. It is invested in growth, understanding, and unshakable composure. To act without impulsive reaction, to live without compulsion, is to align yourself with principles rather than emotions. You begin to observe life instead of being dragged through it. Energy is preserved for what truly serves your purpose, and the illusion of obligation toward those who demand your attention disappears. Each response you withhold strengthens your independence. Every moment of restraint reinforces your inner stability, and every conscious decision not to engage protects your peace. As Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you resist the urge to explain, defend, or react, you begin to understand the deeper structure of your own mind. You see clearly where your energy is going, what truly matters to you, and which interactions deserve your attention. Clarity, resilience, and discernment begin to grow. Ignoring the unnecessary and refusing to react becomes a mirror reflecting not the chaos of the world, but the steadiness of your own reason. By deciding where your attention flows, by choosing which provocations deserve engagement and which should pass unnoticed, you reclaim control of your life. You become the architect of your mental landscape, the guardian of your calm, and the master of your inner world. Every interaction, every potential disturbance is filtered through judgment aligned with purpose. The discipline of non-reaction and thoughtful silence transforms the ordinary into opportunity and chaos into something manageable. This is where mastery begins, not mastery over others, but mastery over yourself. The ability to remain unmoved, the clarity to recognize value, and the patience to conserve energy form the foundation of inner strength. Each deliberate choice, every moment of restraint, brings you closer to the life you are always capable of living. Seneca once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." By learning not to react, you reduce unnecessary suffering. Most disturbances only gain power when you allow them entry into your mind. When you refuse that entry, they lose their influence. Your attention returns to your goals, your purpose, and your peace. This is not avoidance. It is strategy. It is self-mastery. When you stop scattering pieces of yourself in pointless conflicts, when you guard your attention as something sacred, and when you choose silence instead of reaction, you are no longer controlled by the world around you. You move deliberately, act with purpose, and protect what truly belongs to you. The strength to hold back, the courage to ignore, and the wisdom to remain steady form the essence of a life built on reason, freedom, and stoic power. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you practice restraint, you practice freedom. Every moment you resist unnecessary engagement, you reclaim your energy, preserve your calm, and reinforce your sovereignty. Reaction is always a choice. By choosing carefully, you shape the life you live. Attention itself is a form of currency. Every glance, every word, every moment you spend on someone is an investment. Unlike money, it cannot be earned back once it is spent. Yet many people give it away carelessly, hoping for appreciation or approval that rarely comes. The effort spent explaining yourself, defending your decisions, or reacting to provocation often returns only chaos and frustration. And the truth is that no one benefits more from that exchange than the person who disrupts your calm. When you protect your attention and choose silence over reaction, you regain the control that had quietly slipped away. Real power is not in engaging with everything. It lies in recognizing where your energy truly belongs. Every deliberate moment, every carefully chosen interaction reinforces your autonomy. Each response you refuse to give becomes a reclaiming of your life, a declaration that your inner state is not a resource for anyone who demands it. Think about those who constantly pull at your focus, the ones who thrive on drama, feed on conflict, and seek validation by dragging you into their turbulence. Each reaction you offer becomes proof that they have influence. But when you choose not to react, when your attention becomes rare and valuable, the balance begins to shift. The energy they expected from you disappears. At first, the consequences may seem subtle, but they are powerful. Guarding your attention does not mean abandoning responsibility or compassion. It simply means prioritizing what aligns with your values and purpose. Your energy is limited and valuable, and how you use it reflects what matters most in your life. When you treat attention as sacred, you set a standard for how others interact with you, one that discourages exploitation and encourages meaningful connection. When every word, glance, and gesture becomes intentional, life begins to operate on your terms. A quiet authority emerges within you. Imagine if every conversation you entered and every response you considered was measured by a single question. Does this deserve my attention? The automatic habit of reacting, explaining, or defending fades when faced with conscious choice. In its place appears clarity, presence, and control. Moments that once scattered your focus transform into opportunities for growth, composure, and understanding. You begin moving through life not as someone pulled by distractions, but as a guardian of your own energy. Every refusal to engage unnecessarily becomes a declaration of value. By withholding attention from those who attempt to exploit it, you demonstrate that your calm and focus are not negotiable. The absence of reaction often speaks louder than any argument or explanation. Others may try to provoke you, demand your attention, or disturb your peace, but by refusing to provide it, you maintain your sovereignty. The quiet observer, unmoved by drama and undistracted by trivial matters, holds influence simply through calm control, deliberate action, and an unreactive mind. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When you react automatically, you allow that transformation to be shaped by outside forces. But when you guard your attention and hold back your reactions, the transformation happens on your own terms. You become the force guiding change in your life rather than a tool of someone else's impulses. Silence and a steady presence create a kind of strength that cannot be taken from you, a space where your purpose remains undisturbed. Seneca once said, "We are always complaining that our days are few, and acting as though there would be no end of them." The same truth applies to attention and energy. Time and focus are limited resources. Spending them carelessly is a form of stealing from yourself. When you choose carefully where to engage and where to remain silent, you recover what would otherwise be lost. Fleeting moments turn into meaningful influence, and thoughtless reactions transform into deliberate power. The quiet discipline of guarding your attention becomes the foundation of true self-mastery. Imagine how different life would feel if every interaction was intentional instead of automatic, if every conversation, every glance, every decision to respond or remain silent was considered carefully. You would discover a quiet strength within yourself. The world might still move unpredictably, but your inner state would remain steady, grounded, and sovereign. Attention given wisely creates natural influence. Energy preserved becomes the ground where purpose and achievement grow. By treating attention like a valuable currency and investing it only where it truly matters, you begin shaping a life directed by intention instead of impulse. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Guarding your attention is mastery. Choosing silence instead of reaction is freedom. By reclaiming the moments others attempt to exploit, by deciding where your focus truly belongs, you create a life where chaos, provocation, and distraction hold no authority over you. Protecting your energy is the base of all self-discipline. With every thoughtful pause and every measured response, you claim the freedom that has always been yours and cultivate a mind that is calm, resilient, and unshakable. From this place of focused attention, everything else follows. Decisions become clearer, priorities stand out, actions grow more powerful. By refusing to invest energy in what is unworthy, you create space for what truly matters. You reclaim a power that was never meant to leave your hands. Every choice to guard your attention builds a life filled with clarity, focus, and inner freedom. The world will always try to pull you into reaction, but when your energy is reserved for what matters, you move through it on your own terms. Mastering attention is, in many ways, mastering life itself. There is also a quiet strength in withholding a response. When others expect conflict but encounter none, their assumptions collapse. The effort they invested in provoking you becomes useless. Meanwhile, you remain centered, observant, and fully in control of your inner state. The Stoic path becomes clear here. Disturbances exist only if you allow them. By practicing restraint and allowing silence to speak in your place, you regain authority over your own life and display a strength that is subtle but unmistakable. The power of silence is not passive, it is deliberate. Every word you choose not to say is an act of control. Every provocation you refuse to engage with reflects your priorities. When you stay calm while others attempt to pull you into turmoil, you create a psychological boundary that is difficult to cross. Your mind remains free, your focus undisturbed, and your energy preserved. Others may react with frustration or confusion, but the quiet stability of your presence reshapes the situation without a single word spoken. Silence also works as a filter. When your engagement becomes selective and your response is thoughtful instead of impulsive, only what truly deserves your attention reaches you. Everything else fades into insignificance. You stop wasting energy on trivial arguments, pointless debates, or attempts to prove yourself to people determined not to understand. This is not avoidance, it is a conscious distribution of your mental and emotional resources. Time once lost to reaction becomes invested in clarity, composure, and strategic awareness. Consider the silent message you send when you remain calm and reserved. It communicates far more than words could. Calm restraint carries a natural gravity that draws attention without effort. People begin to notice your steadiness. They recognize control and composure. Your silence itself becomes a presence, one that commands quiet respect. By mastering the art of measured non-engagement, you shape the way others interact with you while preserving the most valuable resource you have, your energy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence becomes a practical application of this truth. It is the refusal to surrender your inner world to external pressures. It is the conscious decision to remain undisturbed even when chaos surrounds you. When you hold back immediate reactions and allow moments to pass without response, you reclaim autonomy. Your mind stops being a battlefield for other people's desires and becomes a place of calm observation and deliberate action. The real challenge, however, is consistency. Silence must be practiced not only when things are easy, but also when situations are provoking. Each time someone expects a reaction and you choose not to give one, you reinforce your independence. You teach yourself that your peace cannot be negotiated and that your energy is not something others can casually take. Over time, this habit grows stronger, and the quiet authority it creates becomes natural. The person who understands the value of silence moves through life with a kind of gravity that cannot be faked. It can only be earned through consistent self-control. With practice, silence becomes more than a tactic. It becomes a state of being. It transforms impulsive habits into conscious decisions. It turns wasted energy into preserved strength. It allows you to exist in a space where others' attempts to provoke or manipulate you have little effect. By mastering silence, you cultivate resilience, clarity, and freedom, the foundations of a life guided by reason and protected by inner peace. Strategic withdrawal is another part of this discipline. It does not mean disappearing completely. It means being present without always being accessible. You participate where it serves your purpose, and you step back when it does not. The choice is intentional rather than reactive. Sometimes you engage fully and contribute where it matters. Other times you withdraw slightly, allowing the rhythm between presence and absence to create a subtle gravity that attracts attention naturally. Few people ever learn this quiet power, yet it shapes perception more than constant words or gestures ever could. Think about someone who constantly gives themselves away, always replying instantly, always available, always accommodating every request. At first it looks like reliability or dedication, but over time that constant availability weakens their presence. They become predictable, ordinary, and eventually taken for granted. What was meant to build connection slowly reduces their impact. People notice their presence, but they do not truly value it, because value grows in scarcity, not in constant exposure. Now imagine someone who is selective. They appear at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reasons. Their presence carries weight because it is not guaranteed. Their absence creates space for curiosity and reflection. Each interaction is intentional, each engagement meaningful. This is how quiet influence is built. Scarcity holds power, and you become the one deciding who receives access to your energy. Your presence becomes a form of currency, something valuable rather than something spent carelessly. This principle applies to every area of life: personal relationships, professional environments, and social interactions. When you decide when to be fully present and when to step back, you define the terms of your engagement with the world. You are no longer pulled into every demand, every drama, or every expectation. Instead, you move according to purpose, guided by values instead of reaction. Each time you withdraw intentionally, it is not an abandonment of responsibility, but a declaration of control over your own energy. Silence and selective presence work together. When you step back, you allow reflection and observation to grow. You begin to see patterns in others' behavior, recognize hidden motives, and understand the nature of the demands placed upon you. Those who constantly seek access to you often depend on your attention. But when that attention is withheld, they are forced to recognize the value of what they once assumed was freely available. The shift is subtle but undeniable. True power lies in making your absence meaningful without feeling the need to explain it. When engagement becomes rare and intentional, people begin to adjust their perception of you. They value time with you more because it is limited. They appreciate your contributions more because they are not constant. You create a rhythm that others cannot easily predict, and within that unpredictability lies influence. By stepping back deliberately, you allow curiosity, respect, and even anticipation to grow. Simply not being constantly available communicates boundaries and self-respect more effectively than any explanation. Carl Jung once said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." When you engage selectively, you observe instead of react. You maintain enough distance to see clearly. Your energy remains reserved for what is meaningful and truly valuable. Strategic withdrawal protects you from manipulation, exhaustion, and distraction. Your presence becomes intentional, your actions thoughtful, and your focus unwavering. Over time, this approach transforms the way you move through the world. You no longer chase validation or attempt to prove your worth through constant engagement. Instead, you allow others to recognize your value through the restraint you practice. You engage when it aligns with your purpose, and you withdraw when it does not. Every decision to step back becomes a quiet declaration of autonomy. You teach others how to approach you, not through demand, but through merit. In this way, presence and absence begin to work together, creating influence without effort, respect without force, and attention without obligation. Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." The rhythm of strategic withdrawal is a direct expression of this principle. What lies within your power is your engagement, your energy, and your focus. What does not lie within your power are the endless expectations of others, the demands that do not serve your purpose, and the chaos you cannot control. By choosing carefully where and when to invest yourself, you align action with control and create a life guided by intention rather than reaction. Selective presence naturally creates a sense of scarcity that commands respect. People begin to notice the boundaries you maintain, the effort you invest, and the value of your time. Your influence grows quietly, not through force, not through argument, but through discernment. The moments when you are present begin to carry weight, and the moments when you withdraw leave a lasting impression. Relationships, interactions, and outcomes begin to shift simply because your engagement is deliberate rather than constant. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Expectations, demands, and pressure often appear as obstacles, yet when you master the rhythm between presence and absence, they become tools of influence. Each moment of withdrawal becomes a quiet strategy. Each measured engagement reinforces boundaries and preserves your energy. The art of not being constantly available becomes an act of control, a demonstration of sovereignty and inner strength that few people truly understand. When you recognize that absence can carry as much influence as presence, your approach to life changes. Every interaction becomes a conscious choice. Every engagement becomes purposeful. Every withdrawal becomes deliberate. Participation stops being automatic and becomes strategic. Chaotic demands turn into opportunities to reinforce boundaries, and scattered energy becomes focused power. The quiet mastery of knowing when to appear and when to step back allows you to shape your life intentionally while protecting your energy and earning respect without ever asking for it. Ignoring, however, goes even deeper than withdrawal. It becomes psychological leverage. Choosing not to respond to drama, criticism, or provocation creates a void. The person seeking your reaction suddenly has nothing to grasp. Their mind begins searching for explanations, replaying the moment, inventing scenarios to fill the silence you left behind. Meanwhile, your own mind remains calm and undisturbed, anchored in clarity rather than chaos. Imagine living each day untouched by the turbulence others attempt to impose. You encounter gossip, criticism, and provocation, yet your mind remains steady. Words that once might have dragged you into conflict now pass harmlessly by. The discipline of ignoring does not remove you from life. Instead, it positions you above unnecessary conflict, allowing you to engage only where your presence truly matters. Influence begins to come from composure rather than reaction. Human beings naturally crave closure. We want answers. We want confirmation. We want explanations that restore balance when something unsettles us. When you remain silent instead of reacting, you deny that closure. The person who attempted to provoke you is left suspended in uncertainty. They are forced to confront the limits of their influence while you retain your calm and focus. In this way, ignoring becomes both self-protection and subtle power. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Each moment you choose not to react affirms that truth. Your mental state is no longer dictated by the behavior of others. Your energy, your focus, and your priorities remain under your control. By observing rather than reacting, you become the architect of your own experience. Your calm is no longer accidental, it becomes intentional. There is also clarity in refusing to feed negativity. When someone attempts to provoke you, they are often seeking validation for their own emotional state. If you respond, you confirm their influence. If you ignore them, that influence disappears. Their attempts to disturb you lose power, while your focus remains uninterrupted. Indifference, in this sense, does not isolate you from meaningful relationships. Instead, it filters the interactions that enter your life. Only those aligned with your purpose receive your energy. Learning this discipline takes patience. At first, the urge to react can feel overwhelming because reacting is a habit formed over years. Yet with practice, something remarkable happens. Your energy begins to stabilize, your thoughts remain clear. The emotional turbulence that once surrounded you starts to fade. Those who once relied on provoking you lose their leverage, and you gain influence simply by maintaining composure. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Ignoring protects you from imagined insults, perceived slights, and the projections others attempt to place on your mind. It allows you to remain present rather than consumed by unnecessary emotional storms. Every deliberate non-response strengthens your mental boundaries and reinforces the independence of your inner life. Over time, ignoring becomes more than a tactic. It becomes a state of mind. Reactions turn into conscious decisions. Chaos becomes an opportunity for observation rather than involvement. By maintaining this discipline, you protect your time, your energy, and your attention while allowing the world to move without extracting unnecessary cost from your life. The clarity and resilience that grow from this practice form the foundation of a life guided by intention rather than impulse. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Choosing silence over reaction and ignoring what does not serve your purpose is the practical expression of this wisdom. The world may attempt to provoke, distract, or manipulate you, but your inner state remains untouched. Through this mastery, you reclaim authority over your life and protect the most valuable resource you possess, your attention. Sometimes, however, ignoring is not enough. Some people must be removed entirely from your orbit, not through confrontation, not through hostility, but quietly and completely. These are the individuals who drain your energy, spread negativity, or manipulate your emotions without adding value to your life. Their presence is not neutral. It consumes time, focus, and mental space that should be reserved for what truly matters. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. When others constantly siphon your vitality, your ability to create, grow, and act with intention begins to weaken. Every interaction requires emotional and mental investment. Many people give that investment freely, hoping for appreciation that rarely comes. But when you remove those who do not deserve it, something powerful happens. You reclaim your energy. That reclaimed space allows room for meaningful relationships, purposeful work, and personal growth. Each act of selective disengagement strengthens the walls of your inner fortress. Those who once attempted to dictate your emotional state lose their influence because they no longer receive your attention. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." By removing those who do not belong in your life, you redirect your attention inward. You begin to understand your own values, priorities, and direction more clearly. You realize that energy is finite and that controlling where it flows is the foundation of true freedom. Removing people from your life does not diminish your world. It clarifies it. It creates space for individuals who align with your principles and support your growth. Your interactions become intentional rather than reactive. You are no longer pulled by drama or unnecessary conflict. Instead, you move through life deliberately. Seneca once advised, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." When you remove those who drain your energy, this principle happens naturally. You surround yourself with individuals whose presence encourages growth and whose values align with yours. Each boundary you establish strengthens your ability to invest deeply in what matters while protecting your attention from destructive influences. There is profound freedom in this practice. The moment you stop responding to those who drain you, you break the cycles of anger, frustration, and obligation that once controlled your emotional life. Your mental and emotional resources remain protected, allowing you to invest them in activities and relationships that truly matter. The removal of what is unworthy does not leave a void. Instead, it brings clarity, focus, and the freedom to act with intention. The life that gradually unfolds becomes richer, more balanced, and more sustainable because it is shaped by conscious decisions rather than impulse or pressure. Even the quiet act of stepping away carries influence. When someone is no longer part of your circle, they are left to face the reality of their own actions and their consequences. The patterns they once used to drain or manipulate your energy are disrupted, sometimes forcing them to reflect or change. Meanwhile, you gain something far more valuable: space, control, and peace. By distancing yourself from what is unworthy without unnecessary confrontation, you preserve your inner harmony while allowing the outside world to correct its own imbalance. Energy, attention, and presence are among the most valuable resources a person possesses. When they are wasted on people who neither respect nor return them, life becomes scattered, draining, and unsatisfying. Through selective disengagement, you reclaim authority over these resources. You direct them toward relationships, goals, and pursuits that genuinely enrich your life. This is the true meaning of autonomy, the conscious choice of how, when, and with whom your presence is shared. Over time, this habit reshapes not only your interactions, but also the overall quality of your life. Places once filled with conflict, manipulation, or exhaustion begin to transform. They are replaced with clarity, opportunity, and meaningful engagement. Your focus sharpens, your energy grows, and your life moves closer to the intentions you truly hold. Every boundary you establish, every moment of withdrawal, and every unworthy presence you remove contributes to a life lived with purpose, independence, and quiet strength. Control over emotion is the armor of the untouchable. External circumstances have no authority unless you grant it to them. Anger, pride, jealousy, and fear are levers that others often attempt to pull, hoping to influence, distract, or destabilize you. But once you recognize these levers, once you cultivate calm indifference toward what does not serve your purpose, their influence fades. You become predictable only to yourself, yet difficult to read for those who wish to control you. The foundation of this emotional armor is awareness, discipline, and restraint. Emotions themselves are not enemies, they are instruments. The real wisdom lies in understanding which emotions empower you and which ones quietly surrender your control. Anger may reveal injustice, but if left unchecked, it consumes the mind. Pride can inspire achievement, yet when it dominates, it clouds judgment. Fear may offer protection, but excessive fear paralyzes action. By observing these impulses without surrendering to them, you retain authority over your inner world. You become the governor of your emotional state rather than a subject of chaotic circumstances. This emotional armor strengthens through repetition and reflection. Every encounter where you resist reacting impulsively, every moment where you hold back a defensive response, adds another layer to your inner resilience. This is not suppression, but integration, the practice of recognizing feelings while refusing to be ruled by them. When you understand the triggers others try to exploit, the vulnerability they depend on disappears. Your behavior remains steady and intentional, while to the outside world you appear calm, composed, and difficult to shake. Stoic philosophy teaches that disturbance does not arise from events themselves, but from our interpretation of them. When an insult or setback appears, the true power lies in how we choose to view it. By training your mind to see provocations as neutral, external, and often insignificant, the emotional reaction that once followed is replaced with careful observation. The less you allow yourself to be moved by small attempts at control, the more energy remains available for purposeful action. Each moment of calm strengthens the inner fortress, making manipulation increasingly ineffective. Consider how frequently life tests you through small challenges, a rude remark, an unreasonable request, or an unexpected obstacle. These moments cannot be avoided. What separates people is how they respond. When you recognize emotional triggers, observe them, and deliberately choose restraint, you prevent them from shaping your behavior or clouding your judgment. Your mind becomes a calm center within chaos, and each pause reinforces both clarity and confidence. Emotional armor is built one decision at a time. It grows quietly, yet its impact becomes powerful over time. Jealousy, envy, and fear are common pressures used to influence people's behavior. Recognizing them without surrendering to them transforms weakness into strength. The untouchable understands a simple truth. The outside world can only influence what we allow it to influence. Each decision to remain centered, each choice to act from reason instead of impulse, strengthens the protective structure that safeguards clarity and focus. You become unpredictable in a deliberate way, not chaotic but intentionally difficult to provoke. Untouchable because your actions follow principle rather than reaction. Developing emotional armor requires ongoing reflection. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with disciplined practice. Every time a situation appears that would normally trigger anger, defensiveness, or fear, you are given another opportunity to reinforce that armor. Each act of controlled restraint trains the mind to respond from strength instead of habit. The result is not emotional numbness, but mastery. The ability to act with clear thinking and full command over your mental and emotional resources. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once expressed a powerful truth. If a man does not know to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Emotional mastery works in much the same way. When you understand how to guide your inner state, no outside event can easily divert your path. Calm becomes a tool. Clarity becomes protection. Restraint becomes a subtle form of influence. Every interaction becomes manageable, every provocation becomes navigable, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice sovereignty over the mind. Emotional armor allows deliberate action in any circumstance, preserving energy, concentration, and composure. Ultimately, a life built on emotional mastery is one marked by resilience, purpose, and freedom. External forces may try to provoke you, to pull you into reaction, or to disturb your peace, yet the untouchable remains centered. Emotional triggers are noticed without surrender. Impulses are acknowledged without control, and energy is preserved for what truly matters. Each moment of restraint strengthens independence. Each act of conscious inaction sharpens focus. Over time, the quiet strength that develops becomes the foundation for a life directed by reason, clarity, and inner peace. The philosopher Aristotle once said that knowing oneself is the beginning of wisdom. Emotional armor is the practical expression of that knowledge. Every pause, every controlled response, and every observation of emotion without surrender gradually transforms self-awareness into true inner sovereignty. The untouchable moves through life with composure, influence, and resilience. By mastering emotional control, you gain not only defense, but the freedom to act with intention, the clarity to prioritize what matters, and the strength to remain steady in a world constantly seeking to provoke or distract you. True power often lies in action withheld. Choosing not to fight, not to prove yourself, and not to explain what serves no purpose is an act of mastery. The instinct to respond is strong, yet wisdom resides in restraint. By holding back your energy instead of giving it away, you conserve focus for what truly matters. Situations often resolve naturally when left unforced, and inaction creates space for clarity, perspective, and strategic advantage. Inaction is deliberate power. Every withheld response and every resisted urge to defend demonstrates command over your mind and resources. Provocation loses effect when met with stillness. By doing nothing, you expose who values your presence and who thrives on distractions or illusions. Your calm reflects their intentions and signals sovereignty that cannot be taken lightly. Constantly responding scatters energy and diminishes influence. Observing without reacting preserves it. Calculated restraint lets you act where your impact is meaningful. Your deliberate responses turn minimal effort into maximum effect. Even in unpredictability, your composure ensures outcomes align with your purpose. Those who attempt to provoke you may become frustrated, curious, or uncertain, yet you remain grounded, focused, and serene, moving only when it serves your greater goals. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Action reveals the patterns, expectations, and manipulations of others. Remaining still allows you to observe without interference. Insight arises naturally, and energy is preserved for what aligns with your principles. Patience is key. The Stoics teach that time brings clarity, discernment is wisdom, and mastery is knowing when to act and when to remain still. Immediate reactions satisfy impulse, but cloud judgment. By waiting, you allow consequences to unfold naturally and gain perspectives unavailable to those who rush. Each moment of restraint reinforces self-mastery. Influence grows not through force, but through presence and attention. When no response is given, the true intentions of others become visible. You see who seeks conflict, who craves validation, and who contributes meaningfully. This clarity is invaluable. Those engaged in drama without your participation reveal the limits of their intentions. Inaction becomes strategic discernment. Energy is preserved for meaningful pursuits instead of squandered on pointless engagement. Over time, this disciplined management strengthens mental resilience and fortifies the inner space where purpose thrives. Deliberate pauses are acts of autonomy and subtle influence. The effects of inaction may be invisible, yet profound. Others grow curious, unsettled, or fascinated when they realize your mind cannot be swayed by provocation. This stillness communicates authority more powerfully than any argument or force. By acting less, you exert more influence. Measured, deliberate, and untouchable, you shape perception and outcomes without effort. The rhythm of your presence dictates engagement on your terms. Freedom comes from resisting the compulsion to react, defend, or prove, reclaiming control over your time, attention, and energy. Life transforms into a series of deliberate choices rather than impulsive reactions. Each moment of stillness reinforces self-mastery and creates space for clarity, insight, and effective influence. Sometimes the deepest transformations occur not through action, but through restraint. By withholding reaction, you observe, reflect, and intervene strategically. You discover who and what truly matters. The power of inaction is presence tempered by restraint. It quietly asserts autonomy, preserves energy, and subtly shapes influence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." Deliberate inaction embodies this principle. Choosing where and when to act maintains balance, control, and integrity. Though the world provokes and distracts, your energy remains protected, focus uncompromised, and inner peace intact. Each decision to remain still strengthens clarity, amplifies influence, and secures the freedom foundational to mastery. By practicing deliberate inaction, observing without reacting, and preserving energy for what matters, you cultivate a life guided by intention, insight, and sovereignty. Moments of restraint accumulate into authority, silences into influence, and pauses into clarity. Practiced wisely, inaction becomes a state of being, a reflection of mastery, focus, and enduring freedom. Your power has always been within you. Every pause and deliberate choice has been building the life you were meant to live, calm, focused, and untouchable. Carry that strength forward, protect your energy, and move through the world with unwavering purpose.